So we talk of repairing and releasing the heart, citta, which is heart, simple, perhaps simplistic word for it. Sensitive awareness, sympathetic, sensitive awareness, which can subside into a state of serenity, spaciousness, or activated, whipped up, crazed, frenzied, and damaged. But it's always possible to bring around healing because it's a very fluid, changeable thing. And the primary problems is we take that which we experience primarily as, oh, this is myself, this is me going through some stuff. My stuff. And that me is a convention, a construction. It's not actually you certainly have this living, sensitive, affective awareness that can do all kinds of wonderful and horrible things. That's there. But the me implies a constant, stable form. Often with all sorts of social obligations, you should be, I should be, and then it gets, I should be able to do, make happen. I should be something for other people, so that other people will then be okay with me. I want to do. So it has all kinds of biases and obligations built into it. So it's actually quite a stressful form, and it's a construction. It's a construction that gets placed onto this animated, living, sensitive, empathic awareness. Yeah, and okay, but it does take, that creates all kinds of, you're trying to make something that's really quite fluid into something that's really quite boxy, predictable, known boxes. Well, actually, we're pretty fluid. It's like trying to make, an animal into a car because it goes faster. So even before anything else happens, that's already a place of some artificial construction. And the problem is that we don't even really receive the natural regenerative processes if we're in the animate. Cars can't do it. Animals can. Cars can't fix themselves. Animals can. Yeah. So the animate, breathing, living entity can discharge the shocks and the stress and then come back, be taken back by its rhythmic energies, tides, actually bringing it back again. It's like a fluid. So it can get compressed and then fluidities return, and coming out of that, here we are. So that regenerates, it discharges that which is caused stress or shock or impact or tension or constriction. It's able to shake down, discharge that, and then regenerate into something again that's got life, vitality in it. You see? So the animate can do that by itself. Cars need gasoline and petrol to keep them going. And servicemen and stuff like that. So, okay, this is all right. So that, okay. Now, it's clearly it's going to be for our well-being, but it's also for our liberation, because the primary, liberation. What does that mean? It means the citta is no longer obstructed into this artificial box, which cannot fulfill what's expected to do. It cannot be constantly punctual, efficient, effective, happy, cheerful, strong, supportive, and relaxed at the same time. It can't be strong and pretty and intelligent and courageous and all that. So you get these more and more demands made upon that. It just starts to, then you feel, I'm not doing it very well. I'm just not up to scratch. I'm just not, something wrong with me. And this is the first sabotage program. Because they're not only dealing with damage, you're also adding more negativity to it. And then the strain, if only I could be what I'm supposed to be, so then that's depletion is the first thing, the wounding and being inadequate, which adds as a sickening effect. And then the straining to be something is another sabotage program. Strain to be something you should be. And these are called the tides of bhava, becoming, or vibhava, trying to collapse altogether, get out. And that's what happens when we put this quality into a box. And then put more and more pressure on that box. Now this is before anything more specific occurs, like attack, shock, grief, betrayal, the sort of stuff that happens. Abandonment, feeling rejected, feeling isolated, let down, accused, some of this, and all this shock, you see. So the shock, if you're in that box state, it doesn't have the ability to really receive the shock and then, okay, that was pretty bad, and let's just breathe that out and return to fluidities and regenerate, because you're still trying to hold the box together. So you're stuck into this frame that can't actually do it. And you're still trying to be a coping person. Meanwhile, you're dealing with specific shock impulses, damage, betrayal, abuse. So the system goes into a strain. So what happens is basically the system starts to ignore bits of itself, shuts down, like, didn't see. So then what happens is we go out of that into abstract reality. So we go into fantasies, phobias, ideas, theories, game plans, screens. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, because it's too painful in here. It's just too dead in here. There's so much dead, painful stuff. I've got to get out. So distraction. And yet, we manage somehow. So it's this very fundamental, diamond-like quality to citta, because you can't see it, it's clear, but you can't burn diamond, you can't crush it, and that's the thing we keep, you can sense this, you can know this, you can be awake to this, you can name it, you can investigate it, and you can really establish diamond-like qualities like integrity from this, and generosity. I can do that. We gain our independence through integrity. It means I do not abuse others. Betrayed, I do not betray others. Condemned, I do not condemn others. So that's the diamond. Within all that. And you really begin to sense that, and then really kind of like breathing some of those qualities of the heart, the honour, the honourable. Yeah. And you can feel a kind of ripple of sanity run through the system, you know. So both releasing the heart from the grip of these restricting tendencies, even if they're still there, at least we're not being so activated by them. So we feel the results, we don't act them out. And this is the possibility. We all have inherited, this is called the results of karma, actions that we've either done or been involved with or other people have done to us. There's an accumulation of residues which are tangled, and some are beautiful, thank goodness, some are lovely, thank goodness. We've all had a miracle or two, thank you very much. We've all had some love, thank you very much. We've also had some difficult stuff, so okay, get the whole picture, you know. And then we can say, let's not perpetuate the restrictions, restricted habits. So then a release from future karma, release from acting them out. And then we begin to perhaps sense, well, why do these, how come, even though I'm doing the best I can, I still feel kind of inadequate, still feel a bit battered, still get very edgy and nervous, and I get a bit irritable and depressed and sad and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is residue. This is debris. So if we recognize that the citta is like something that's very much an energy body, and you've got these bits of trash floating around in the stream. Energetic debris, emotional debris, psychological bits of hurt, wounded bits, guilty bits, feelings of inadequacy, kind of in all that, in that soup. So the cleaning, how does that occur? We have to. So what I'm suggesting, I'll ask you, since you've invited me, and I try to do what I feel is appropriate, to first of all retrieve the whole form, even with all the funny bits inside it. By which I don't mean so much the anatomy, but what I've explained to you, the rupakaya, which means the embodied form, which, if you like, that's the underpinning of our embodiment. So solidity, fluidities, warmth, vitalities, mobilities, things rushing around, flushes, tingles, pulses, vibrancies, all that. And that certainly plays out on the anatomical level. They're not the same, but that's the blueprint. And how we sense our anatomy is often because parts of our anatomy suddenly get very fiery or get very cold and closed. Yeah? So you get closure in your chest, or you get fire rushing up inside of your head, or you get sudden volcanic bursts coming up, into your body. You actually start to feel jangly or restless or edgy. Most likely they immediately go to an emotional form. We feel irritable, we feel moody, we feel lost and lonely. Because the energy body, this has a very immediate relationship to the heart. So the first thing we sense of don't feel right, feel discordant, something wrong, feel moved, feel depressed, feel lost, or feel angry, or feel bitter, or something or the other. And then the stories come as to why. First of all, the mood comes, then the stories. And before the mood comes, there's the somatic presence, the energy body starts to experience some disturbance, then the mood arises, and then the story. And the unawakened practitioner tries to deal with the story, which, it's worth looking at. But that's the crest of the wave. And you've got to kind of the underlying waveforms occur as fundamental emotional senses, which are just a sense of lost or not grounded or separated, excluded, or somehow compressed or tense or compacted. Yeah. And then that can actually start to play out in your body. If your throat closes down, and what often occurs is a sense that what should be skin becomes muscle. So, as I say, the sense of skin is actually something skin is very, very thin and soft, isn't it? You touch it gently with a feather in a sense. So soft and easy to tear skin. And it's permeable. You can breathe through the skin. Energy streams through the skin. Very sensitive. And that's our natural boundary where we're in an atmosphere which is actually healthy. So when we arise as a form, we have that sense of a very soft boundary that's taking in the health, the life, the vitality, and breathing it out. It's an amniotic state. But then impact happens and you get muscle, which is, you won't bother. Some sort of defense pattern happens. It could be hold myself together so that people don't think badly of me. Hold myself tight so people, I look good. I want to be solid and stable. I don't want to be fluid. I want to be really rock solid. So that's what people like. So we get into our box. We get nice and solid. Then you've got a muscle boundary. A muscle boundary bounded by fear, basically. Fear of what other people will say or do. So I get holding my own, holding myself together. You get a fear boundary, because otherwise I will, or we get an anger boundary, like defensive. What are you looking at me for? So easily touchy and irritable. This is what I call a muscle boundary, you see. And muscles are really not about boundaries, they're about potentials to do something. Then we can do things, then you relax the muscle. You do something, you've done it, relax. When muscle becomes a boundary, it never relaxes. So you get a sense of something is always, you can't figure out what it is, but something is always on, do. And being alive is about doing yourself. Here I am doing my being. Is it good enough? Am I look good enough? Am I turning up at the right place? Am I saying the right things or saying stupid things, So the boundary of our form becomes, how am I doing? How am I doing? Am I doing okay? Please tell me I'm doing okay. And the fear of, I'm probably not. Because it's artificial. You see, because it can't, because it itself, it's like a muscle, can't, skin can tell you things. You can say, oh, that's soft, that's bright, that's painful, that's comfortable. It easily transmits, it communicates. Muscle doesn't. That's not its function. Its function is not to feel, just to do. So you can't feel. When you've got a muscle boundary, you can't feel the appreciation, the love, the safety, the comfort, the humour, because you're stiff. And you don't know why. Because what's going wrong? Must be something wrong with me. Or perhaps them. And then, her. Or somewhere in the past, mother and father, grandmother, grandfather, uncle, brother, whatever, it was his fault. Okay, so they weren't arahants, but why is it still there? Why couldn't it be discharged? Since we're living in a world of people with their imperfections and flaws and they got their own stuff, how are we going to get on if we're just constantly being freaked out by everybody else's stuff? and muscle isn't going to do it. But you go, okay, there it is. Feel it. Okay, that felt, and then we feel the feeling as a feeling, uncomfortable feeling, open around that. Okay, that's past. I don't have to make a person out of a feeling. I don't have to make, I'm a stupid person for having these feelings. I don't have to make an internal person who's me, who's feeling what they shouldn't feel, or him, he's the one who caused this feeling. I don't have to do that because there's no point. It doesn't do you any good. What does you some good is feeling feels like this, and there can be, what can receive feeling? Heart can receive feeling. And for the heart to receive the feeling, it has to come out of the box. Come out of the person, come out of the self. It has to come out of the self. Then it can do its proper thing, which is receiving impressions. Okay, that took me back. Breathing out, and you find that diamond again. Stop there, and then let's return. Tide returns, we come back into fullness again. That's a process, you see. This is how one can feel, definitely feel, but not be restricted by feeling. Definitely have meanings that seemed to be a pretty aggressive piece of behaviour. I interpret it that way, but I'm not going to get frightened of it. I'm not going to get blaming around it. That's that. A ripple of shock or nervousness runs through the system. I think I've just made a big mistake here, dropped a terrible gaffe, made a complete idiot of myself. Again. Here we are. Return to base. Come out. Sorry if there's anything happened there. You know how it goes, and then come back again. The more we can do that, we also encourage that in others to forgive and release. And you see, so this is this kind of mundane, and particularly in terms of relationships with people, this is just so ongoing. Yeah. And then what's needed, you say, well, that diamond center, and the other thing is this, I've talked about it, the space, the intimate space. So this physical form arises within this knowing space, sensitive awareness, sensitive presence. Here's feeling, here's sensation, here's energy, here's warmth. Here's a sense of, I seem to have some kind of boundary. But that boundary occurs within the aware space. The aware space doesn't have any. Otherwise, so the edges of what I think I am arise within that. Okay, so why do they have to be so solid? They're not containing anything, really. And that allows that returning to, it's not that much change. We can recognize and have a boundary, but we know it as something that's arising rather than as a final, this is what I am. And then dissolve. I mean, dissolve the pressure, dissolve the weight. So we're both dealing with areas of dukkha, distress, discord, inherited problems, inherited feelings of dislocation or limitation, kind of things that have a fairly mundane and sometimes incredibly intimate quality to them, so deeply personal. But because of that inner diamond, these pains and difficulties urge. They say, I will not go away until you open and expand. They keep coming back. They keep nagging. Until you open and expand, you're going to get more of this. You'll be carrying this till your dying day. So it's a kind of like the dukkha ends up being the prod to awakening. So it's not like we're trying to become perfect personalities or perfect people, but be in a proper process of releasing discord, or sensing it where it is, opening around it, meeting it as it is, rather than, oh my goodness, no, go somewhere else. Meeting it as it is, the feeling tone, opening around that nerve of feeling, and then you touch into something that's got a fluidity to it. It's not a fast fluidity, it's a slow tide. And it's slow tide. So everything slows down, and then transformation can occur. Slowing down means the end of, when's this going to finish? Slowing down means, what's the way to get out of this? Slowing down means, what's the trick I have to do? Slowing down means not clearing all those. Slowing down means not how do I get out, but how do I stay? Slowing down means not what's the technique I've got to do to make this go away. Slowing down means I don't know what to do. Stay with this, open to this. So these kind of slowing down means the end of that sense of hurry up and get a solution. Otherwise, there's something else you can't do. You can't even meditate, let's face it. Another failure. You've been told so many times about letting go and you can't do it, can you? So slowing down means meeting that voice as it comes up, saying, just a minute. Oh, that's a sabotage program. Okay. So it's not going to happen in that quick way. It's going to happen through lingering, staying, inviting, feeling, opening, sensing the return of the tide, trickling fluid. And you feel the intensity of the feeling begins to subside. And so there's an emotional current with that. Sometimes it feels like you feel just really flat or sad, kind of like a collapse. Go with it. The energy goes down, you go into rest state, and it comes back. Trust the tide. What else can you do? And in dealing with your own intimate issues and topics, you're dealing with something very universal, which is called the sense of self. We've mentioned that. Our self is accumulated through these called the aggregates: feeling, form, fixed form, identifying with form, identifying with feeling, gripping, being gripped by perceptions and meanings, being magnetized by volition, being compulsive about volition. This is all the, and consciousness, that is the continual data process. Add more thoughts in order to make things better. So this is the aggregate. So remember, they're affected by clinging. They have a tendency to come in to the places where our citta is unsteady, it's not completed. Then there's this kind of sudden clutch towards do something. That's called attachment to volition. Do something about it. No, don't do something. Be something. Be spacious, be open. Just listen in sympathetically. Yeah. So then that gripping, that attachment to a volition, relinquishing. So then instead of the energy going to more doing, which doesn't actually do anything useful, it's wheel spin. You don't want to keep doing wheel spin. Better just to switch off, rest, sink. But stay awake. And that wakeful restfulness allows the citta to groggily, perhaps, begin to find itself within a form, a space, a presence, an awareness that's actually healing, comfortable and free and open. And release. Release from volition, release from consciousness, release from perceptions, release from feeling, release from having a form. And form is something that occurs, it's an event, right? It's not an entity. So as we're doing the reclining, you can see that if you really track what your form experience is at, you can go from something extremely expanded, when you're breathing in, an expanded form, and then subsides to a very minimal form. And it's certainly not what you look like. It can be very fluid, spacious, luminous, but it's always going to be in this tidal flow. And that's just form doing what it does. It's not a person. So return to that, that's the healing place. And then we also recognize this form experience is just animated nature. It's interesting. And it's not self. Citta can be released from that. Doesn't mean it ignores it, it just says, oh, it's that. It's just that. It's just that. And there's an emotional coolness around the changes that happen. These are just, really important, any of these places that you can remember, because most of this teaching, I imagine, will just disappear. But bits may lodge, so I just present it, because that's what I do. Because for sure, as we age, aspects of form are going to become degenerate, discoordinated, momentum ceases, potencies dwindle, and it's important to not feel depressed or anxious or oppressed by that. It's just form doing its thing. And you can maintain that core quality, integrity, awareness. Let form be what form is. But while in any form, if we hold it properly, will certainly help to balance and steady the heart from despair and anxiety and irritation and negative influences.